been represented over the past 7.5 years. What brought me to serve on the school board initially, I hear people say, well, you're not going to have children in the school system anymore. And my daughter's here, she'll be graduating this year. I'm trying not to get upset. And honestly, it's not about her graduating, it's about, that's not why I got into the school system. When I worked for the school system, driving the school bus and substitute teaching, it was every day that I went in and saw children. I mean, I dealt with hundreds of children a day. And I can stand up for my own child. I can stand up when I see money being spent incorrectly. When the teacher is not as good as the teacher should be. I can support the teacher who's great, the bus driver who's great, the system that's great. But there's so much more to that, and there are so many parents and taxpayers who don't see the real picture and don't have any communication and don't have a voice for them. That's where I began to serve. I noticed that you go to school board meetings and there are things presented. They look good on paper, and if you don't ask any questions, you don't know if they're true or not. I went to plenty of school board meetings, probably 4 years before I decided to run for the school board, because it was clearly apparent that some of those things that were presented were not coming to fruition. The promises weren't being kept. And there's no fingers to point there. It wasn't one person's fault. It was just the fact that there's so much going on. It's hard to keep up with all that. So you have to have a team of people that are willing to listen to the information that comes in, ask the questions, and try to get the answers. And if you can change something there, you do that. As far as to go on with what Kirsten said, in school you do hear a lot of data and numbers. But if you go into a school, you're not looking at data and numbers. You're looking at people. And it's so easy. If I was a manager at Walmart, that's one thing. You're talking about products and you want customer service. But when we're talking about school system, we're talking about students, we're talking about teachers, and every person in that system can affect those children. And as I look at the big picture of the past 7.5 years, it's hard because you don't see the big picture getting any better. You know, I work really hard every day, and I don't see the big picture getting any better. But when I get a call from a grandparent or a parent or a teacher, and they can give me a specific thing that I can follow up on, and all we do with that is call the superintendent. We only have one employee as a school board, and that's the superintendent. He is our only employee. We choose the superintendent, we evaluate the superintendent, and if he retires, we replace the superintendent. We go to him, I let him know that there's an issue, and often it's disheartening when I say, you know, do you have time? And he always has time to sit and talk to me or call me on the phone. But for me to be the one to tell him that there are issues and he didn't know anything about them, that concerns me, because somehow he's not getting the information. And the problem I run into is, where is that gap? And depending on what the problem is, you have to dig, where's that gap? And as an elected official and a school board member, you're not allowed to get involved in daily operations. But when a parent or a citizen asks me a specific question, I need a specific answer, and we need to figure out where the problem is. That's what I do, and those are the little things that we can make changes in. So even though I don't see the big picture changing, those questions do bring things to light that we need to take care of. I want to stay within my time because I want to make sure I won't get plenty of questions. The other things I do is, school board members, we don't work at the school district. We have 2 meetings a month at most. We have training twice a year. But that does not mean you can't go into the schools. Doesn't mean we can't work with other nonprofits in our Family Connections, which Sharon and Lydia have gone to Family Connection meetings with me before. Those are groups of nonprofits, juvenile justice. We talk about the Education Foundation. We talk about the backpack program. The backpack program, if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, but at Roberts, I got to speak to the regular Republican Party, gosh, 6 or 7 years ago. That's the last time I spoke. And I let them know how many homeless students we have and what homeless means. Homeless means you don't have a permanent home. It doesn't mean you're sleeping in a car. It means you don't have your own home. You may be staying with family. And I also said that we had some backpack programs, and that sparked some interest. Because my point is, as a taxpayer, I don't want to ask y'all to put money in a pot to take care of people, okay? I don't want to be an enabler. But there are kids who do get free lunches. They don't have the choice of their parents. We're trying to teach them, if they come to school and we feed them, we can feed them on Monday morning at breakfast and lunch. But at the weekend, if they go with no food, there's nothing we can do about it. They don't come show up Monday morning and they're going to be great. After I mentioned that, the Republican Party decided they would start sponsoring the Roberts Elementary program. That's just an example of what I feel a school board member should do. We should communicate with you so you see the needs and that you know what's going on. And inform you. There's so many things. We mainly do the superintendent. We do policy. And we do budget. But I don't go in there and say we need to spend this much. What we do is we get a budget, which I have a copy of it. It's about this, a budget primer with all the big expenditures. And then if there's positions or something that we don't feel we need, then that's the things we get to discuss. But other than that, it's not, I'm going to call Kim Cobb, I need a job, or I don't like this teacher. Those aren't things we deal with every day. So as far as school choice, a lot of people say, are you for Common Core or school choice? I'm for school choice. I don't think that we should tell people how to school their kids, educate their children. And I'm told, I know Virginia talked one time, I think it was Americans for Prosperity, and I said, I agree with everything you said. I think what people don't understand is some people in public education, they're not against homeschooling, and they're not against public school. It's just every dime that we get, whether it's mandated or not, they hold you to all this stuff, and they put all this red tape on you. And if you want to give that money to everybody, that's fine. Just we're going to have red tape, let's all be on the same page, because we all need to be, you can do your own curriculum, but if we're all going to have to take the same test, let's just be on the same page. That's the only thing about that. I definitely think everybody should have their choice on school choice. And some people need to understand what that means. We do have school choice out here, meaning if there's room at another school, you can take your child, you transport your child. But there's a lot bigger picture to school choice as far as if you want to school them at home or school them in a private school. The other thing is Common Core, which I tell people, it's like, I'm not for Common Core. They came and gave us a presentation on that, not to sell it to us, but just to let us know what the children were learning. It was confusing. And it was confusing. I asked teachers if they like it. No, we don't like it. I think the only positive thing I've heard is, and I guess this is why they're mandating it, is we have so many transient students that supposedly, if you have Common Core, you go from one district to the other, it's supposed to be the same. It's not, if you go to one school one week and the next school the next week, it's not going to be the same. So that's not really a factor either. I want you to know I participate. I'm out in the public. I'm accountable. If you ever have anybody that says they've called me and I don't call them back, they've emailed me and I don't email them back, they've texted me, that's probably untrue unless I just did not get it, because I will not call you back. And it doesn't matter if I agree with you or not. I'm still going to call you back. I'm still going to let the superintendent know. And if I don't agree at that point with what they've decided, I will keep pushing for you. There's calls sometimes I don't agree with, but I still let them go through the chain of command, and they still deserve my time and respect, just like any other call. And that's what I vow to keep doing, and I hope you allow me to do that. And if anybody